Hey, I'm going to talk about all the best entertainment, media, art, whatever you want to call it, that I read slash watched slash otherwise consumed in 2023. And I'm going to try to go really, really fast because there's a lot to talk about. So, yeah, here we go. First up, I'm going to talk about movies. So the third best movie that came out in 2023 that I saw was Oppenheimer. Yeah, this one had to be on here. It's a pretty obvious pick. Everyone loves this movie. You've heard all about it. And I just want to say that when I saw this movie, I could only hear like 60% of the dialogue. I don't know if it was a sound mixing issue with the theater or if it was a me problem or what. But you know a movie's great when you can only hear 60% of the dialogue for 3 hours, and it's still a really, really, really good movie that I'm glad I saw in theaters. So, yeah, Oppenheimer, everybody loves it. Let's move on to number two. Killers of the Flower Moon. This movie's 3.5 hours long, and it was worth it. The longest movie I've ever seen in theaters. This is so good I didn't even have to pee or anything. I was riveted. Martin Scorsese. I mean, I knew it was gonna be good, but I feel like this was good. Like even by Martin Scorsese standards. Like this was like high up in his list of movies or whatever. And all the acting was great. You got all the good actors are in here. De Niro, DiCaprio, and then you got Jesse Plemons, who's breaking character by not playing a really weird guy, which I like when he plays the weird guys, but he's good at playing normal people too, I guess, so that's neat. And the best movie I saw in theaters in 2023 was this Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm a big Spider-Man fan, but even if I wasn't, I would have thought that this was a great
Great.
movie. Just the animation in here is it's like groundbreaking. Ooh, that's not a word I use often, but this is something else. This is a different level of animation right here. And then, that's not all that the movie has going for it. The story is really good. Like I don't know how these people are so talented that they can have animation this good and a story this good at the same time. It was incredible. Great movie. I also couldn't hear a lot of the dialogue, but it was still really good. So yeah, go see this movie if you haven't yet. Even if you hate Spider-Man with every fiber of your being, this is still a really good movie. So now I'm going to talk about movies I watched in 2023 but didn't come out in 2023. So third on this list, we got Good Time. This is Robert Pattinson robs a bank and it goes horribly wrong, and it's just really tense. And it's a really gripping movie. If you just want to be stressed out really, really bad, go watch this. Second best movie I saw that didn't come out in 2023 was The Apartment. This is from the 50s or 60s or something. It's black and white. And how do I even describe this? There's this guy, he's like this low-level guy at this big company, and he gets favor with his bosses because he lets them use his apartment to have affairs with their secretaries or whatever. Yeah, it's a weird premise, but then the conflict of the movie comes when like the big boss of the company wants to use this guy's apartment to have an affair with a woman that the main character of this movie has a crush on, and he's like, oh, I don't want that, and he has to figure out what to do, and it's a whole thing. It's like kind of a comedy, kind of sad, kind of a lot of things. But yeah, it's a classic. It's good. Go. I don't know if that sounded good at all, actually, but it's a really good movie. Trust me. Go watch it if you like that kind of thing. And then the all-time best movie I watched in 2023 was Paths of Glory. This is another really old movie from the 50s. I swear I'm not some guy who just watches like black and white movies and nothing else. They just so happen to be really good, the ones I watched this year. But yeah, Paths of Glory. This is the man Stanley Kubrick. And yeah, it's a war movie. Some guys they're in war, and bad things happen, and all the blame gets pinned on them, even though they did nothing wrong. And it's just about it's just a really sad, depressing, great movie about war and how it's bad and all that good stuff. So yeah, Paths of Glory. War is bad. Yeah. Moving on to the video game category, I only played one video game that came out in 2023. I know that's crazy because I heard that this was one of the best years for video games ever made, and I'm definitely gonna play some more of the ones I missed out on, like Baldur's Gate 3 and Zelda and all that stuff, but the only one I played was Mario Wonder, and it slapped. This is just a crazy fun game. Really love what they did with the level designs and the wonder seeds and all the trippiness and the talking flowers and all that. And I mean, Mario turns into an elephant. It can't get much better than that. Okay, so now all the games that I played that didn't come out in 2023. So number 3 of those is Doom, the original one from 1990, whatever it was. I'm probably the last person on earth who hasn't played this yet, but I mean, yeah, and I played it back in the day on my laptop back in high school and stuff, but I never beat it. So I actually beat it for the first time this year, which was cool. So yeah, it's just it's Doom. What else could I say? You shoot things, and it's fast, and it's fun, and you're in space. Yeah, it's a good time. Second best game I played in 2023 was Shin Megami Tensei 4. I love all these Shin Megami Tenseis. It's like, if you haven't played these, it's like Pokemon, but demented. It's I liked training up all my little guys and killing the opposing people's little guys, and you can be good or evil, and there's a bunch of cool sci-fi and fantasy stuff going on in here, and it's just really fun. It's also stupid hard. That Minotaur boss early on in the game, oh my goodness. I lost like 4 hours of my life fighting that thing, but it was worth it. And the best game I played in 2023 was Elden Ring. I know, I'm like, 2 years late to the party on this one, but better late than never. This game was worth it. I normally don't like open world stuff at all, but since it's a FromSoft game, I had to check it out, and I'm glad I did. I loved exploring the world, beating up dudes, getting beaten up by dudes. Some of the best boss fights in any game ever in here. Just loved it. Great game. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the best albums I listened to. So there were only 2 albums that came out in 2023 that I listened to that I liked enough to talk about here, because I don't listen to too much new music. But here we go. So the first one of those that I want to talk about is this album by 100 gecs called 10,000 gecs. I appreciate how the number of gecs increases incrementally with each new album. That's a nice touch. But yeah, this has, in my opinion, the best 100 gecs songs and some of the worst 100 gecs songs, but that's okay. It evens out and is still a really good album. If I could recommend one song to try out from this album, I'd go with Me, 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 Me. I forget how many me's are in there, but it's the one with a bunch of me's in it. Yeah, go listen to that one if you want to try this album out. And then the other album that I really liked from 2023 was the Silent Planet album, Super Bloom. This is kind of like metal, but in space. It's like listening to a really angry alien. I was a fan of it. It reminds me of that first Mudvayne album a bit. So if you liked that and you want to listen to more spacey, metal-y stuff, this is probably for you. I'd recommend the song Collider. Now here's some good albums that I listened to for the first time in 2023 but didn't come out in 2023. So first up, here's The Moon in Antarctica by Modest Mouse. I never listened to too much Modest Mouse, but I probably should because I liked this album a good bit. It got me all nostalgic, and that's impressive considering that I listened to it for the first time a couple months ago. But yeah, it's just one that you just vibe with it and you reflect on your life and all that. And if you want to give it a shot, I'd recommend the song Third Planet. Next up, I got Government Plates by Death Grips. I dabbled in some Death Grips last year. I'd listened to The Money Store a couple years ago and liked that. And I was like, you know what, 2023, I'm going to listen to the other Death Grips stuff. And I think this one was probably my favorite. Bottomless Pit was really good too, but this one, I liked how short all the songs were. You felt like you got it was just bouncing around all over the place, and I kind of liked it. It's just a crazy, angry, fun album. My favorite song was probably the last song on it, Whatever I Want. And my favorite album that I listened to last year is this Me Without You album with this really long name. What is it? Here we go. Let me see if I can get it right. It's All Crazy, It's All False, It's All a Dream, It's All Right. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, something like that. And yeah, okay, so back in high school, one of my friends was really into this band, and I hated this band. I thought that the lead singer had an incredibly annoying voice, and so I never listened to them. And then, over a decade goes by, and here I am, I'm listening to Me Without You, and I like them for some reason now. So, yeah, this is my favorite album of theirs so far. It's kind of acousticy, indie-y. Every song's a story. The lead singer really likes talking about animals and Abrahamic religious themes. I don't know. If it's not for you, it's definitely not going to be for you. But if that sounds like something you'd be interested in checking out, I'd recommend the song "The King Beetle on the Coconut Estate," I think it's called. Yeah, you can tell from these names if it's going to be for you or not. But that song is crazy. It is a wild ride of a song. All right, moving on. Here's my best 3 books that I read in 2023. I didn't read any books from 2023, so there's not going to be any of those here. These are all going to be older books. But first up, we got The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by Yukio Mishima. Now, okay, this book is incredibly disturbing and dark, but also very, very well written and thought-provoking. How do I even describe this? It's about a boy who has some unconventional friends, and this group of friends has very arbitrary, distinct rules for how they think people should live their lives, and the boy's father-in-law is breaking these rules, so they decide that they're going to inflict punishment upon him. And that's about all I can say, but it's a lot, it's disturbing, it's very well written, it's very short. If you can handle some heavy subject matter, I'd recommend it. The second best book I read in 2023 was 100 Years of Solitude. This is an all-time classic. It's a saga where you basically follow the birth of this town up until the town's decay many years later. So you're following like the patriarchs of the town, the family that founded the town and all that, up through I think 7 generations. And it's really cool. It's like reading a history book, except it's magical realism, so magic happens every once in a while. And but it works. It's not weird, it's weird, but it's a good weird. And then yeah, it's funny. There's humor in this. It's sad because you get to watch people make the same mistakes over and over and over and over again that their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents made, and you just watch the slow corruption of this town over time. But it's just a really unique experience that I've never had reading anything else, and it's an all-time classic for a reason. And the best book that I read in 2023 was The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This is the most emotional I've ever felt reading a fictional book before. It's about this father and his 6-year-old son, I think, who are basically just trying to survive in this horrible post-apocalyptic world where indescribably bad things happen all the time. And it's just incredibly dark and disturbing, but it's not like a sadistic, you don't feel like the author's trying to torture you the whole time kind of book. It is ultimately very hopeful, but is not afraid of showing you the absolute darkest parts of humanity. And I think that it really wrestles with both of those things better than I've ever seen anything do before. And, I was very emotionally affected by this. Father-son stuff and books, if you're going to make me cry, that's how you do it. And I definitely cried reading this. And I'm not ashamed to admit that, this is just a very emotional read. If you don't cry reading this, I'd be very impressed. But yeah, this, it's rare for a book to affect me like this, and that's why it's the greatest book I read last year. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the 3 best comic book series that I read. So here we go, starting off with 100 Bullets. So this series has a really cool premise. It's basically episodic at first, and what it is each story centers around a different, fairly normal person who one day gets a visit from this guy named Agent Graves, this mysterious individual, and he comes up to them and gives them a gun and 100 bullets and says, "Hey, I'm with the government, and if a crime is committed with this gun and these bullets, you get a free pass. The government's going to look the other way. You can kill whoever you want with it, and that's perfectly fine." And you basically just follow these people's reactions to this, and what they decide to do with this proposition. So from the beginning, this series is really interesting because you get these cool stories of these people ruining their lives by killing each other, and but then from the beginning you also have this overarching mystery of who is Agent Graves, why is he giving all these people free, untraceable guns, and there's other mysteries brewing in the background. There's this weird symbol that keeps popping up, and you want to know what's going on there. So yeah, it's just a series that's engaging on multiple levels. Next up is Invincible. The show of this is really popular, so you probably know the gist of it, but it's just a really unique superhero series. You got that twist at the beginning that I'm not going to spoil, but you probably know it, and that really sets the tone for this, because there's twists and turns for the rest of the series that are just as crazy as that first one, and I never really knew where the series was going, but in a good way. Like, it's hard to pull that off where you don't know where it's going and it doesn't feel like trash, but this series did it, and it was very unique, very engaging, just a fun, worthwhile series. And the best comic book I read was Brian Michael Bendis' run on Daredevil. This was one where I started it 4 years ago, and it was so good that I was like, I have to wait until the perfect moment to finish this. I'm weird like that. When something's really good, I put it on hold and wait. I don't know what's wrong with me. I need to fix that. But 4 years went by, and finally I was like, all right, it's time. I'm going to finish the Brian Michael Bendis Daredevil. And it was well worth it. One of the best superhero things I've ever read. If you've seen the Daredevil show, this is basically, like that, but even better in some ways. Just a very intense, there's some very bold choices made here. I highly recommend it. Daredevil is just one of the best characters in all of anything, I think, and this is one of the best runs on that character, so yeah, I loved it. And finally, now I'm going to talk about the 3 best TV shows that I watched in 2023. So first up is Severance. This is another thing that has a really great premise. It's about this company where they work on what's supposedly super duper top secret information, so much so that they make their employees undergo this procedure that basically splits their work self from their outside of work self. So when you're outside of work, you don't remember what you did at work, and when you're at work, you don't remember what you're like outside of work. And so it's a psychological thriller type thing. There's a lot of mysteries going on, like, what are they doing at this company that's so secretive that they need to do this to their employees, and it analyzes the ethics of how this situation would go, and it's just very, very gripping. And the reason it's only number 3 on this list is because only 1 season of it is out so far, but I thought about it, and I think this is the best first season of any show I've ever seen before. And yeah, man, that season finale, I don't know how much longer I can wait for season 2. I need my season 2 of Severance, and if this keeps up being as good as this first season was, this is going to be one of the best TV shows I've ever seen, for sure. The second best TV show I watched in 2023 was Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is funny, and I enjoyed it. This was a big surprise for me because this was not on my radar at all. I had no intentions of watching this. I just randomly had an episode on, and then I liked it enough that I ended up binging the whole thing pretty quickly. So yeah, I did not expect that this was going to be one of my favorite shows of the year, but it was. I mean, it's a comedy about the tech industry, which isn't something that I care about at all, but they made me care about it. The characters are really endearing in here. Like, I didn't expect them to be, especially, when I saw that the actor who played Gabe from The Office was in here, I was like, ew, get Gabe from The Office out of here. I hate him. But he was really good. He was one of my favorite characters by the end of the show. And then the plot was actually interesting in this. Comedies are not known for their great plots. And this one, I mean, it's not perfect. It gets a little repetitive at points, but I was interested overall. I was actually watching this for the plot, and I was surprised by that. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a good show. And my favorite show that I watched in 2023 for the first time was Lost. I don't know how I went this long without watching this, since it's kind of a cultural touchstone, or what is that? Is that the proper phrase? Touchstone? What is a touchstone? I don't know. But yeah, Lost. This is definitely a flawed show. So I actually liked the ending of this, which is a bit of a controversial take, but I do think that the last 2 seasons are a bit of a step down from the first 4, and there's definitely some episodes that pad out the length and don't do much else, but overall, I liked watching this a lot. I mean, this was a mystery show that, like, captivated the world for the years it was on, and I can see why. It was very engaging, and then I really liked the characters in this. I grew attached to them more than the characters in most shows, and I think that's why it was my favorite. You know, it has its imperfections, but the overall, the basic plot and the cast of characters really made it for me.